am not a homer, even though I live in Miami. But the game that I'm looking forward to see is that Dolphins Charger game. It's a late start. It's the 4 o'clock game for everyone, and first of all, I love that it's a Kevin Harlan game. So good things are going to happen in that game. So that immediately puts me in a good mood. I love the over 51. I think we're going to see a lot of points in that game. I think it's Herbert and Tua. The Dolphins defense is banged up, so Herbert is going to carve them up, especially that secondary. And I think considering it's the Chargers and their historicals, I like Miami's offense and Tua in that game. Curious to see how the Dolphins recover, only because last year Miami went to SoFi, played the Chargers, and got worked. So it'll be interesting to see if they adjust and how each team plays off of that game last year. But I like over 41 in that game. We talked about it with PJ, the Niners and the Steelers. I love the play of under 41. You've got two great defenses out there in the Niners and the Steelers. Bosa and Watt. I think points are going to be at a premium. We don't know if Brock Purdy is going to be back to Brock Purdy sort of form. So I like the under 41 in that game. The Hello Friends game, the Jim Nantz game, is Eagles Patriots. And I'm surprised it's only 4.5. I know it's the Eagles laying 4.5 on the road. I think they're easily a touchdown favorite in that game. Another game that's curious to me is Packers Bears. The Jordan Love era begins for Green Bay. It's pretty much a pick 'em. The Packers getting a point on the road. I like Green Bay in that game as well. And the Cowboys going to the Meadowlands, Jet Life Stadium. If you watch Hard Knocks, they're playing the Giants though. I like the Cowboys laying 3.5 in that game on the road.
I've made this point before when it comes to LAC, and I think it's an important one here, and one that certainly confirms this idea of taking the over. So Justin Herbert, one of the biggest knocks against the Chargers offense last season was how often Herbert resorted to shorter throws. And I'm talking about throws that did not travel at least 10 air yards. In terms of his proportion of passes that were short or behind the line of scrimmage, is one of the larger proportions among qualified quarterbacks in the NFL last season. And here's someone with a rocket arm. He can sling it deep. We know he's more than capable of running an offense beyond 20 air yards. And we didn't see it very much a season ago. Now, part of it was certainly injuries to key skill position players. I get that. But it shouldn't have been that lopsided. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming either. You don't need to be in, say, the Marcus Mariota territory from last year, where you're either running the ball or using play action to throw it 30 air yards. Like, you don't need to be at that level. But I am curious with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore if this is something that is talked about, where we want a more vertical offense. And if the Chargers ultimately get that, then I think that means a couple of things. Number one, I think the offense will ultimately be more effective, but it could also mean that Herbert is forced to throw into more tight windows. And if that's the case, yeah, his interception total might go up. But that's not the worst thing in the world if you more than compensate for that with touchdowns and key chunk plays in high leverage situations. So I wonder if, say, the Dolphins defense looks a little bit better than what our expectations might be. And if that's the case, then definitely Miami will get some short fields in this contest. They can score touchdowns there, and it will ultimately lead to a higher scoring game. The Chargers may still win it. Justin Herbert may have a fantastic outing, but able there are a couple of turnovers where Miami gets some benefits as far as short fields are concerned. A couple of thoughts I have as far as evaluating the Colorado program. First of all, I'm more of it was just one game. TCU may not be very good. They are replacing a lot of folks, not just in terms of players on the field, but also assistants. So be very careful when it comes to looking at TCU and thinking they're like the second best team in America and Colorado knocked them off. I wouldn't go that far. But what I would say, though, is, okay, the flash, the swag, all of this stuff involves Deion Sanders and a couple of the players, for the Buffaloes. That's fine. But how they're building the program, Deion is, as well as the university, it's really impressive. Just look at the assistant coaches that they have. Sean Lewis, former head coach at Kent State, now calling plays. Charles Kelly, who spent time at Alabama. Tight end coach Tim Brewster, who was the head man at Minnesota. Sal Sunseri, who was at Bama for a little bit. Pat Shurmur. Mike Zimmer is somehow around. It's one of those things where if you can quantify assistant coaching staffs in college football, I have to believe that Colorado's, it's up there. I don't know where exactly, but this is a really impressive group that Deion Sanders helped put together. So there is that. It's not just, okay, well, here's this guy who did really well at one program, but strength of schedule is really weak, and so whatever. But here's a guy who has a fantastic infrastructure around him. He just happens to be the face of the program. That's fine. So I'm really impressed with just how well coached the Buffaloes are. And I feel like that's something that can be consistent throughout the rest of the season. So definitely they're going to win 4 games. I know that. I'm more than confident in saying that. The problem, though, is now they're facing Nebraska, could very well be a step up when it comes to competition. And time again in college football, we've seen teams perform really well in week 1 and then sputter a little bit in week 2. And this is more of a stay away for me ultimately, because while I would love to back Nebraska at +3, at the same time, we know how awful the Cornhuskers are when it comes to one-score games over the last couple of seasons. And that makes me tentative enough to where I'm willing just to step back and enjoy the show. What's something that stood out to you after just 1 week of a full college football slate?
Ed, it's got to be the Washington Huskies, man. I don't know if you guys watched that game against Boise State. Washington they're the real deal. They're the real deal. And the Pac-12, we knew coming into it was going to be wide open, and everybody loves USC because of Caleb Williams. Guys, I'm here to tell you, USC might be the 4th best team in the Pac-12. Like, I truly believe that. Washington's better than them. I might take Utah over them. I might take Oregon State over them. USC's offense is tremendous. Might be the best in the country. Want no part of that defense. None. And that's what's gonna kill them, quite frankly. And the back half of their schedule, the first 6 weeks of their season, will be the kind of scores that you're seeing right now. Cupcake after cup. They'll blow everybody out by 40. Once they play Notre Dame and they get to the second half of that schedule, it's like Notre Dame, UCLA, Utah, Washington. They just play good team after good team after good team, and that defense won't be able to hold up. Caleb Williams can only do so much, but there are going to be weeks that USC has to win a 20-17 game, that they have to win a 21-17 game. I don't think they can do that. I was so impressed with Washington. Penix, those receivers with McMillan and Rome Odunze, Kellen DeBoer calling plays. Their offense just keeps coming at you guys. And it felt like Boise played a perfect first quarter. They were up 9-7. They were keeping that offense under wraps. You look up at halftime and Washington's beating them by like 24 points. And it was insane. They just come at you in waves.